Welcome to Light It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah M. Welcome to another episode of Light It Up. I am your host, Dr. Aginah M. And today I have the pleasure of having Mr. Craig Elliott, the spin doctor, on as my guest on Light It Up. For those of you who don't know Craig Elliott, and you should know, he's an extraordinary DJ, entrepreneur, and an awesome dad. So welcome to Light It Up, Craig. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shana, for having me.
So I told you I reached out to you because I wanted to have a conversation. I told you you never know who's watching, and you're a very popular person. But I wanted to have you on Light It Up because I know that you are a dad, you have a son, and I see you and how you interact with him. And I wanted to take this time to talk about Black fathers
Okay.
because we know that oftentimes the portrayal of Black men, Black fathers, is not necessarily too kind, right? So we don't necessarily see all of the positive aspects of Black fatherhood. And I feel like we all have a responsibility to change the narrative. So, hence the reason why I've asked you to join me today.
Good.
So,
Good.
let's, if you don't mind, just tell the people a little bit about yourself for those who may not know.
You stated it. I know a couple people. A couple people know me. I am a brander. The Craig Elliott experience is something that I developed. It is me. It is not just music and nightlife, but a sort of a lifestyle. I guess you would put it. Like you said, I've had the benefit of being blessed to know a lot of people, and a lot of people know me. And with that, and things being positive, there people trust me. They trust my opinion. They trust my uh, when something's happening, they go, okay, well, Craig would know. He would know the best way or the best thing to do that fits whatever their lifestyle, whatever they're looking for. When it comes to, I guess, the entertainment or education or where to eat, or maybe just to be an overall connector, I need to know who's who. I need to know somebody in this position that can maybe assist me in something else. So I've always been a bit of a connector. And with that, other businesses that I have or involved myself in, my added value has always been my network of people, vast network of people, not just in the Chicago and Chicagoland area, but throughout the United States that are spread, all over, that I've developed, in a short period of time of over probably 30 plus years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, short period of time.
So let's talk about
And more importantly, first and foremost, I am a father.
yes, you are a father. How old is your son?
My son is 11 years old.
Okay. And I see your posts with you guys riding along lakefront or wherever you may go. But even with, you know, taking them back to school last year when our children were actually physically in school, but just always seeing those positive images. Um, I guess first question that I like to ask is, how did you learn how to be a good dad?
Easily from my dad. From my dad, from my dad, from my grandfather,
Mhm.
and the people that my family had me around. Have great examples of fatherhood, and obviously I don't like to say had because I'm still learning.
Right, right.
And I'm blessed to still for my father to still be around, to still provide me with those examples. Now he's teaching me how to be a great granddad. So when that if and when that ever happens, but no, it was honestly for my father. It was I learned through the experience. I was blessed to have that experience. Um, with that, I'm going to talk probably a little more about my father than I would about me being a dad,
Mhm.
because I've been biting his style for so long.
Okay.
And also to be quite honestly, and he'll tell you himself, I sort of fill voids where he felt, where he made mistakes. I tell him every day, I don't think you ever made a mistake, but there were things now that I recognize as a father, where he felt he could have been a better dad or more beneficial. He could have done things that were more beneficial to my life.
Mhm.
Um, and that one of the things that happened, like obviously as a little kid, dad is dad.
Right.
But one of the things that happened was in high school. I am a alum of Hales Franciscan High School,
Mhm.
as my father is as well, and two uncles and a cousin. Right, we all Hills men. And
Mhm.
my father, when I got to Hills, I actually transferred to Hills, from De La Salle. And once I got to Hills, my experience at De La Salle wasn't very good, socially nor educationally, academically. And so my father's like, okay, you should have been at Hills in the first place.
Mhm.
You're here. So with that, he took more of a my mother was really handling my educational process prior, growing up. He said, "No, I'm gonna, be here a little more and pay attention to, what he's doing and where he is." So my father became the president of the Parents Association.
Okay.
To know anything about Hales Franciscan, it was unfortunately, well, it's closed now, but it was all black, all male high school,
Mhm.
and the Parents Association, was largely, dominated by moms.
Mhm.
Moms sent their sons to Hales a lot of times because, they wanted those role models, and they wanted that masculinity in their sons' lives growing up. By the time they were teenagers, of course, as a high school student, you feel like you're being punished
Mhm.
because you can't go to school around girls. But we realized much later how much that was a benefit.
Mhm.
And so my dad was the president of the Parents Association during my stay at Hales, and he became more than just my dad. He was a dad to a lot of those boys at school, and I was
Mhm.
very, very proud of that. And today he'll be like, "Man, I was always around them, and I should have focused on you more." And I'm like, "No,
Mhm.
you being around them, I focused on you and saw how you did it, how you became a leader, how you a leader of men, how you organized, how you got people together, how people constantly asked you for advice and what to do and what's next, which consequently led me to who I am and what I do now to
Mhm.
be that." That was my sophomore year. I got there my junior and senior year. I was student government president because I wanted to be that leader and I wanted to work closely with my father, with the Parents Association, the Board of Trustees, and as well as the student government. So we worked side by side together to lead that school and lead other men and other boys. And I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of my father for doing that. So that's how I learned how
Mhm.
to become a dad.
I think that's an excellent way to start talking about this topic. Um, One thing that stuck out to me, you mentioned that at Hales it was dominated in terms of the parent association by women,
Yeah.
which is usually what you see even in the educational system. I've talked a lot about the fact that we don't have um, a lot of Black men who go into the teaching profession. And I think it is very important for our young Black boys and girls as well to see men in that type of structured environment. I
Yeah.
think it makes a lasting impact. So to be able to have your dad there and making an impact on the lives of other young men, I think is just absolutely excellent. because you don't hear that,
No,
a
no,
lot.
you don't, and I agree with you wholeheartedly that with that. I actually went to college to go into education, secondary, with concentration in history and African American studies.
Mhm,
Um, I, education, a formal educational system, kind of turned me off
mhm,
a little bit.
mhm,
As a young man, I didn't really realize what that was and why I should have probably fought a little harder to
mhm.
do that. Entertainment was a little more sexy,
Yeah.
and at the time, it sort of paid better.
Mhm,
But I noticed that the presence of a strong black man wasn't necessarily desired as much as some say we need black men to be here. Yeah, but you know, how much of a man did you really want him to be? What kind of man did you really want him to be? And a lot of times in our size, I believe in our society, period, when
mhm,
when black men, take that reign of leadership, it's like most of us, it's picked through, with a fine
mhm,
home, and the smallest things or the smallest infractions or what some deem as aggression or over assertiveness can be taken in the wrong manner.
mhm.
You know,
Yeah. I've heard other Black male educators say the same thing. Like, what do you really want
right?
um, the Black man to be in the classroom or in the school building for?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
usually it's not for what they should be there for.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of coddling, I believe, that happens in
Mhm,
education.
mhm,
I get it, but um, I don't think that that was the beauty of Hales too, because a lot that happened inside,
mhm,
um, you didn't see often at other institutions. And I love that place for it, and I wish we were still here for it. It was stuff. It wasn't things that you can necessarily put into a curriculum.
mhm,
The fellowship, the camaraderie, the pride that was instilled in us, the brotherhood that we had amongst each other. You can be in school all day and not like somebody, but outside of that school, if you were a Hale Spartan, you were my brother. You are my brother to date. We are still like that. And then that even matriculated to other black men within the Chicago Catholic
mhm.
League school system. I have a ton of gentlemen friends out of Leo and Mendel, schools that aren't open anymore, except for Leo. Big shout to Shaka Ross,
Yes,
the
yes.
principal over there. He's doing an amazing job.
Yes.
But we still have that similar camaraderie because we had that same experience. And I even equate that to the experience that I've had um, going to a HBCU, and
Mhm,
that compared to other men and women who've went to HBCUs, that feeling of family,
mhm.
that you really care about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the competitiveness is there, and I think it's necessary. But I think in this world today, a lot, like you said, there are narratives out here about black men. It allowed us to be, and it allowed you to grow, and it allowed you to really realize what your potential is in a situation where you may not have realized that in other places. This
Yeah.
is my belief.
Absolutely. And you went to, speaking of HBCUs, you went to Alabama A&M, correct?
Yes.
Logs.
Bulldog.
Yeah. My brother was at A&M.
Yeah.
Tons of family there. Um, so let's, I think you know a little bit of my story. I'm divorced. I have three children. I have a son, and I love to talk to dads just to get their spin on how do they navigate parenting or co-parenting when they, you know, are no longer in a relationship with the mom.
Hmm.
And how does that dynamic impact your ability, you know, to successfully parent? I won't go through all of the statistics with the divorce rate or what have you, but um, from your perspective, I mean, you grew up with your dad being involved, clearly.
Right.
Um, so as as a dad of an 11-year-old, um, and I don't know your marital status, so
Right.
but as a dad of an 11-year-old, um, how do you what's the most important aspect of fatherhood for you, first of all?
I would probably say the most important aspect is just to be there and be available. And my the co-parenting it is a tricky thing because you're dealing with three personalities initially: you, the child, and the person you're co-parenting with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, once you get the ego out, once the parents get the ego out of the way and realize that they do what they do in the best interest of the child, I think it really, that's when you have a winning situation. And the same thing I believe even goes for people that may be married and
Mm-hmm.
be around their children every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously offering, being able to respect, the other parent because that's what your child or children will learn from first.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts off difficult and emotional. I went through the trenches, went through court and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But I ultimately realized, okay, I got to get my ego out of the way. I have to look at things from her perspective as well, and not just mine's, and fight to be in my son's life as often as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
With that being the case, I make plans and I make decisions based on his best interest. You know, who I'm around. Since my son has been born, I've been in a relationship with an amazing woman for the amount of time that he's been here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was never here to, replace his mother,
Mm-hmm.
but she's someone that in our relationship she supports what I do,
Mm-hmm.
and the most important thing in my life is my child, and to have a woman to assist me with that. I've been lucky, and a lot of men who aren't lucky, they still want to do their thing and be out here, or they don't necessarily have that same support system. So between her and my parents, I was pretty damn lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I am pretty damn lucky, you know. But with that, it was being here and having and showing my son not only that I love him, but being able to instill uh, pride into him, um, being able to talk to him and discipline him, to have to be open for him to ask me questions, and understand things when he might, be confused and not understand, you know, and just to, just show him different things. I was always, my son has three sisters,
Mm-hmm.
so, I was always like, whoa, he's the baby out of three girls. Then there's his mama, then there's
Mm-hmm.
my mama, and his grandmas on both sides, you know, and I have a woman that's, been in his life his entire life. I was like, whoa, this kid here,
Yeah.
one thing that he is not deprived of is the love of a woman. So he gets that part. So with that, I'm not necessarily hard on him per se,
Mm-hmm.
but we like our time. We like our time. We like our guy time. And even with my dad, I noticed when he's a little different, the ladies say to me, his voice changes when he's around you.
Mm-hmm.
He acts a little different when he's around you. His mother has said things like, "He didn't do that when he was with me." And I'm like, yeah, well, it's different when you're a dad. So that's always been, very important to me for me to have that relationship with him every day.
Mm-hmm.
We may not necessarily have to see each other every day. I mean, I live close to him. I'm involved with his education. His teachers know who I am. His doctors know who I am. And I believe once she and I again got the ego out the way and she realized the benefit of
Mhm.
who I am, plus I sort of inserted myself in her daughter's lives and she
Mhm.
realized that, how important, my role played. That's when things really opened up for us, for me to be, as best as of a dad as I
Mhm.
could be. At that point, then it was just really just trying to give him as many experiences and opportunities as possible to, to be curious, to grow, to learn, and just overall, man, just be happy. There are a lot of kids out here, particularly black kids and black boys, who just simply just aren't happy.
Mhm.
I look at my son and I'm just like, yo, this is a happy kid, and that's all most that's parents from across the globe really want for their kids is just for them to be happy and healthy.
Right. And I think the important thing that you mentioned is once you recognize what the goal is or what's most important, which is that child, and setting your ego aside, then you can work collectively.
Hmm.
And I guess so. I'll pose this question to you: What what do you think? What advice, I guess, could you give men who are in a situation where they need to co-parent? Um, what advice would you give them on how to kind of successfully get to the point where you can?
Concentrate on your kid, man. Concentrate on your kid. Get your ego out the way, and sometimes just fall back. There's a level of competitiveness that men always have, and sometimes what you consider winning isn't always winning. If your child's mom just doesn't see your perspective, try seeing hers.
Mhm,
Try seeing hers. If you guys were married, you'd have to do it. If you
mhm,
guys were living together, you'd have to do it. So don't think because you're not in this romantic relationship anymore that you don't have to do the same things. You got to do the same things forever
mhm,
with her, and you have to do it, and you have to compromise the same way. Yeah, when you get off the phone and get away from her, you can curse and scream and say all the things that you felt like you really wanted to say, but how far is that really going to get you?
mhm,
How far is that going to get you to be combative like that? And I'll be honest with you, most moms aren't stupid. And the thing even about with my son's mom is as as much pushback as I got from her,
mhm,
a lot of that eventually went away. You know, when she really saw who I am as a father, I want to
mhm,
be, the examples that I've had, things like that, and where my heart and responsibility comes in as a father. I have spoken to dads who like she did this, and my first thing is like, well, what'd you do?
mhm,
What'd you do? And it's real easy, to sit around and beat each other up, or ladies sit around and beat up they children's father because your ego is in the way, but you gotta see things from their perspective a little bit, and you know not try to win every battle. It's not necessarily about the win. It's just really for the betterment of the child, and it's maybe not always your way.
mhm.
There has to be some compromise there, because the children eventually they feel that and see that, and that's not a winning situation. And
Right,
particularly when you have small children. And then at the end of the day, like I told a lot of guys, these your children are only gonna be small for so long.
right, right.
If you fall into a situation and your way, in your heart of hearts was the right way, but you had to compromise on some stuff. I was like, it'll be the right way is always the right way. It'll rear its head. You
And
know.
you also have to think about um, the examples that you're setting and how, if you don't find a way to successfully co-parent, then all you are doing is creating another vicious cycle
Indeed.
generational cycle of the same type of parenting or discourse amongst one another. What advice can you give to moms in terms of how to um, better work with their children's father? Would you give the same type of advice?
Absolutely. Here's the thing. If he if and this is goes for both ends. If they aren't putting a child in harm's way, let them be a parent. Let them be a dad. And there are a lot of things that you may not understand because you're not a man, and I get it. It's hard. Men and women, forever and a day, always gonna, disagree or look at things different because we are different.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to at some point understand that those differences is what are what's going to make your child a a a complete person, not just your way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just your way. I'll give you an example. My son plays sports.
Mm-hmm.
I got my son in sports not because I want him to, get a scholarship or go to the big leagues or anything like that. I would love for him to get a scholarship, and I think his education will actually get him a scholarship, and not necessarily his physical prowess. I got him into sports because there were things that I wanted him to learn. As a young man, I wanted him to learn responsibility. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted him to learn teamwork. I wanted him to learn accountability, um, and a number of other things. I wanted him to be socially apt, and how to deal with different people and different personalities, and problem solving, conflict resolution, and things of that sort. And I think sports is some of the best ways to do so. So I have him in sports, and his mom is her, it's her first boy,
Yeah.
and mommy's gonna be mommy's, and a lot of men gonna have to realize that, bro. It's like, yo, your daughters and they gonna be baby. Period. Forever, it's gonna happen. There's nothing you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Wrap it up. you know.
Yeah.
Um, but my son, he had a baseball practice,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if it was a practice or a game. No, he had a game, and they were running late, and it was her day to take him over there. And I was meeting him, and I'm like, "Where are you guys?" And she had something else going on, and she was pretty much had a very laissez-faire attitude about it.
Mm-hmm.
There when I get there, and the team needed him. They were short some people.
Mm-hmm.
They eventually had to forfeit the game,
Mm-hmm.
and she and I had to have tell you about it, like how it wasn't important to her, and I had to really explain to her why that was important, why he needed to be there,
Mm-hmm.
why it was important for him, right? And that was something she and I got past.
Mm-hmm.
So going forward, the following year, he had practice, and again, it was a time where he was going to go. Well, now he's older. My son is very responsible,
Mm-hmm.
and practice is maybe about 2 blocks from his home. Okay, we all live in Hyde Park,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm probably 4 blocks from his school. So he walks, home from school. And so he's up and down 53rd, no problem,
Mm-hmm.
especially, midday and
Right.
evening. And so he was late for practice. I beat him there. I said, "Well, why are you late for practice?" He said, "Well, my mom, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Okay, does your mom have to be at practice?"
Right.
No. I said, "So you go up and down the street to the store when you want to get things that you want, candy, whatever, some chips. But when you go to practice, you got to wait for your mom." And he was steadily giving me excuses, but I used it as a teachable moment to say, "Yo, this is what your activity. This is what you need to do, and this is your responsibility. You can't put that on your mother.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what she's doing. And if you do, you make her realize how important this is to you, to get there. It was no longer on her anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It was on him. And like I told you, they aren't going to be kids very long,
Right.
right? And I, of course, on the back end, I spoke to her about it and let her know. But see, instead of me saying, "Why didn't you get him to practice?"
Mhm.
I said, "No, I got on his case for not getting to practice."
Mhm.
And eventually she realized, dang, I messed up his practice.
Mhm.
So I didn't have to get into it with her.
Mhm.
I made her realize that his level of responsibility was stifled because he felt like she was holding his hand too long.
Mhm.
No, let his hand go.
Yeah.
Let him have some responsibility. So that way I killed two birds in one stone. Taught
Mhm.
him about a responsibility and accountability, and did the same thing with her without getting into an argument about it or making her feel like you should have did this, you should have did that, and her tell me, oh, I have this to do, I had that, or you could have did it, even though we had agreed that on this day she takes him,
Mhm.
right? Instead of, and I realized prior to that, instead of her going, okay, I'll just meet them and we go together.
Yeah.
Then if she was running late, hey, meet us over there.
Mhm.
Instead of calling her and chewing her out or chewing him out, I'll go myself. So, yes, even though we agreed that that was her time to go, I'm going to do what's best for the kid and extend myself to
Mhm.
make sure that everybody gets there. It's, because having a fight about it all the time is only going to stress everybody out and stress out the kid. So I had to, make those adjustments, and you make those sacrifices, and you make those sacrifices for your kid. And that sacrifice sometimes is tucking your tail between your legs and you know, not having a bunch of ego about it,
Mhm.
but in the best interest of the child. And I say that to the moms and the dads. You gotta fall back and let them be. And at the end of the day, nobody's a perfect parent.
Right.
Nobody. We are learning to be parents every day. And you're gonna still be learning to be a parent. My parents are still learning to be parents every day. I'm 46 years old, and they're still learning to be parents.
Mhm.
There's still things that they do: when to call, when not to call, when to
Right.
get off the phone, when not to get off the phone, when all types of things. You know, where am I going? All types of stuff. So parenting is something that you have to do every day. So nobody's a perfect parent.
Right.
So you have to let that person be. And if you take that away from the mom or the dad, then that child is going to have a void that you can't replace.
Exactly.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't do it. You can't replace that void of a dad from a little girl.
Mhm.
You can't do it, mom. All you're going to do is give her the negative stuff that you've learned
Mhm.
coming up.
Yeah.
And like you said, continue a vicious cycle, that's not good for that child.
Mhm.
So,
And I tell people all of the time that, as a mother of a son, I can't teach him how to be a man, and nor is that my responsibility. So the expectation, he has a dad.
mhm.
That's where the expectation lies for him to do that work, or if there are other men in the family, Um,
And it doesn't necessarily have to be the dad. Like I said, if that dad is toxic or is in a situation where we'll put that child in harm's way, or maybe not in the same area, maybe not in the same state,
mhm.
something like that. There are people and places and ways to get that. But I'm gonna tell you something, man. Just talking to your kid on the phone and hearing their voice on a regular basis, it goes a long way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, because at the end of the day, I think they want to know that you care about them. Obviously, you're concerned about what's going on.
Even
Um,
in discipline.
yeah. Yeah.
I had a friend. I have a friend, and
Hmm.
he told me a story about his son. His son's a little older than mine, so again, it's I learn from other dads every day.
Hmm.
And his son was doing something around his mom and his aunt, and the dad told him, listen, don't do this or whatever. I forget, it was something fleeting. And so he kept doing it. So his dad, had to snatch him up. It's like, yo, why do you always do these same things around your mom and grandma? And then it's you're a whole nother person when you're around me.
Hmm.
He said, because you're the only one that's going to discipline me for it, right? And it was like, wow, but what you realize is that, kids want they have a desire to have direction and purpose.
Yes.
You know, they
Mm,
have desire for purpose and direction, and they even act out sometimes because they don't get it. All right, well, tell me what to do, because
right.
I don't know what to do. So I'm gonna do whatever the hell I'm gonna do until somebody gives me the attention to tell me what I'm supposed to do. Because guess what? I'm a kid. I'm confused, and obviously I'm not getting the attention in whatever it is that I need to make this happen.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna do that, or I'm gonna lose interest until you get me back on track. So kids need that.
Absolutely.
Even
Absolutely agree with you.
you have to have that other voice on the other shoulder to say how things need to be done.
Yeah. So, give me some advice, some pointers, some more pointers that you could share
Um,
with.
one thing, like Eugene hit me up for this, and I get a lot of social media accolades for being this good dad.
Yeah.
And really, man, I just like hanging with my kid. That's just my man.
Mm,
That's my boy. I enjoy teaching him. I enjoy showing him new things. I like to keep him active and doing different stuff
mhm,
and not doing the same thing. Yeah, we are at a space now where, because of COVID, where we sort of limited to the things that we do,
mhm,
and he's gotten to the video game age where he's doing that. Well, my thing is, even if you're going to play a video game, well, what are you going to do different with it? So now it stoked his competitive drive a bit, a little bit,
mhm.
and so I show interest in it. But he will quickly get off the video game if I say, "Hey, yo, let's go do this. Let's go do that." In playing baseball right now.
Mhm.
He's been playing baseball 2 years, and he's gifted physically, but these games you still have to learn
Right.
to do it. You can't just get in and say, "Oh, I'm smack a home run or catch a ball." And so he was doing it, and he wasn't good as the other kids that was doing it. So I was like, "Well, what are you gonna do about it?"
Mhm.
Well, let's go. Let's go catch. Let's go hit. Let's go throw. So you can, at least be able to compete with the other kids. So then I made a game out of it, and it was a really cool thing that happened, a really cool story. He plays outfield,
Mhm.
and at his age, all these kids drop balls all the time. They act like they're in the major leagues, but you know. So we get out there, and I throw the balls up high for him to catch the pop ups, right?
Mhm.
And he's dropping some, catching some, and and I'm throwing him way off, so he has to run for it because in a real game situation, that's what you have to do. So he said, well, let's see if I can do 5 in a row. I said, you can catch 5 in a row without dropping. I said, we're gonna do 10 in a row, right? I was like, you catch 10 in a row, then we can get out of here.
Mhm.
Well, we said five, and he was doing three, and we had to start over again.
Mhm.
So we went with 10, right? And we get to seven. He had dropped one. We
That's-
got to start over, bro. Let's go. So after a while, he got really frustrated with himself. I
Mhm.
can't do this. I can't do this. And I'm like, no, you can do it. Get out of your head, concentrate on what you're doing, and catch these balls, right? So I'm throwing them up, and he got to seven, and we kept getting about seven,
Mhm.
and he got to eight. And I'm like, there you go. I'm like, let's do nine.
Mhm.
He got it. He got nine. And then we got 10. And he's like, yeah. I was like, I told you you could do it. And he was like, yeah, you did. Oh, no, no, no. After we got to seven a few times, and he goes, okay, can we just go to five? I was like, no, we're not going to five. You set the goal at 10.
Mhm.
You did that. Meet your goal. So he got 10, and he was excited. I did it. I was like, I told you can do it. I told you you could do it. I was like, now let's do 15. He said, let's go. And I threw him up, and he caught 15. He said, I can do 20. Oh, now he's arrogant.
Uh-huh.
Pumping his chest out. I can do, oh, you can. So now, mind you, at 15, I said, well, if you do 20 and you drop one, we're starting over again. And he was like, wait a minute. I said, no, 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 no. We're not going back. You set this goal. You met your bar. You set it higher. You gonna meet it. Let's go.
Mhm.
I was prepared to drop him back to one.
Mhm.
And I purposely was throwing him way out the way where I knew he probably wouldn't be able to catch it.
Mhm.
Not too bad because if I did, because I'm 46 years old, if I threw it too crazy, I'm like, okay, that's my bad. That's some stuff is just uncatchable, and I didn't want to be completely unfair
Mhm.
with it. And but he was catching them. I'm
Mhm.
throwing them out, and he was catching them, and he got it. And when I tell you, he was so proud of himself that he caught 20 in a row when he was about to give up at 7
Mhm.
because he couldn't get 10, and he did 20 without missing his mark.
Mhm.
Let me tell you something. You don't have to be a parent to that how proud I was of him to see that he accomplished that on his own,
Mhm.
and to give him that drive. It was just such an amazing thing to see. And to want to do that with your kid every day in his academics, in the things that he wants to do, and the things that he wants to be,
Mhm.
it's no feeling that I can even describe to see your child win like that. It was such an amazing thing. So I do stuff with him, and that we did that, to get him there, not just for him to catch well, because I think a few games later he missed the ball and something came to him. But it happens,
Yeah.
and it's a learning experience. Yo, you're not gonna catch them all, but man, as long as you try, you get out there. That's all I ever ask of you is just to give it a try and get out there. I was like, you can't you learn from your failures. That's like if you're always winning, you'll never know what it's like to lose and how to get out of the situation that you're failing from. I was like, so just learn from the situation and don't beat yourself up about it. Figure out what it is you did wrong and then just go back to it. In math, I tell him, man, he's great in math. I was like, it's not just figuring it out, it's how you got there that
Mhm.
matters, not necessarily what the answer is.
Right.
It's actually how you got to that point. And I was like, once you get to that point, then it feels a whole lot better than just having the answer because you actually put in the work to get there. So I like to get out with him and do stuff and just hear his opinion and see how he feels about things when it comes to like the situations that we're going through now, dealing with a worldwide pandemic and even racial
Mhm.
injustice. These kids, they know, man. They know, they hear, and they see things. And I talk to him and I get his opinion and try to find out what it is that he feels to help him grow.
That's excellent. I mean, the quality time that you spend with your son, but also the lessons that you're teaching him
Hmm.
without it necessarily coming across like it's a lesson that
A
you're
lesson, yeah.
drilling.
And then another thing, man, is I've really taken I pull his friends in too because see that's another thing is you can't, especially when you're raising a black boy out here or even girls for that matter, you got to realize they are really gonna get. You think you giving them lessons?
Mhm.
Their friends are giving them lessons too, and sometimes those aren't the right lessons, and sometimes those kids may not have what they have. Most of his friends, unfortunately, don't fathers aren't as active as I am in
Mhm.
their lives. So I'll have 3, 4, 5 of them over with no problem,
Mhm.
and at the same time, I'll talk to them all like they're mine
Yeah.
and treat them all like their minds and provide for them as much as I can within that time that they're with me,
Mhm.
like their minds because they're all of ours.
Right.
And we have to take charge of all of that because they're still out there. You don't want to lose them. I would be heartbroken if I lost one of his friends, to the street or a situation where I know they paid attention to me or I could have at least saved them with a word or two here.
Mhm.
Because the thing is, and I told my son, he comes home, he has some, his grades are good. And I'm like, well, how's Jason's grades? You
Mhm.
know, oh man, he's not doing too well. I'm like, well, why isn't he? He's
Mhm.
your friend.
Right. Right.
What's the problem? And he'll tell me what the problem. I was like, well, you need to motivate him
Mhm.
because if you're out here hanging with him and he's not doing at least equally as well as you are, and you're not assisting him, then number one, you're not a good friend.
Mhm.
And number two, he's gonna hold you back.
Right. Right.
So I was like, so you guys got to do it together, man. And that's another part about being a part of a team and accountability. You can't. Nobody's gonna do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it alone. And I want him to know that. I want him to always be a leader and a motivator to his own friends. And I try to be there to be an example to them as well.
Mm-hmm.
He and I go bike riding. And I find another bike. We all going bike riding. People all day. How many kids do you have? You ask, how many kids do you have? Because I always have kids around. Same thing with his sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking them to the dentist and the doctors, and he has a sister that's 15. She got a industrial piercing on her cartilage, and I said, "Why'd you do that?" It's just something I wanted. I'm not her father. I'm not her mother, but I offered my opinion. I was like, "Well, you're very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't need that." I was like, "But if that's what you choose." So we had to go to the dentist. She's getting braces,
Uh-huh.
and so you have to do X-rays, and you can't have that in while you're doing the X-ray. But it was getting infected a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, "Oh, it's getting infected, huh?" And I told her before, I was like, "That's not a really real easy piercing to have."
Yeah.
Well, it's just something I really wanted. She's sassy. She's 15.
Mm-hmm.
She cute. She wanted to do her thing, and so when she was rolling with me, I said, "How's that piercing?" And that's how we got it. She's like, "It hurts, and I have a little bump back here." And I teased her. I did her just like myself. I said, "Oh, you're gonna have a big old knot behind your ear now. It's gonna be very ugly."
Mm-hmm.
And she's, "Don't say that. Don't say that." So, well, what are you gonna do? You can't have it in the ear while you get your X-rays for your braces
Mm-hmm.
and take it out. I was like, "Oh, yeah, I think you should."
Keep it out.
Keep it out. And she's gonna keep it out because now she's like, I don't like what it's doing to me. It's ugly, it hurts, or whatever. But you still got to be there, the same way for little girls. And
Yeah.
like, gonna make those mistakes. Her mom, is like, no, I don't want you to do this. She comes running to me. She won't let me do it. I'm like, well, why don't you think she wants you to do it? She's been here before. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of a reason that she don't want you to do it.
Yeah, girls definitely need their dads too, or need a father figure
Yeah.
um, in their lives. I will tell you, I mean, I my parents were married. It would have been 50 years
Mhm.
this year. And
God bless them.
yeah, and my father, at the time, woo, did he get on my nerves. However,
Can only imagine what it would have been like to grow up with Dr. Muhammad.
but you don't, I always knew I had a great father. And he was also a father to many,
Indeed.
and the lessons that I learned, now I kind of sit back and reflect on all of those things. And what I remember, um, so I was always with my father just because of the nature of his work,
Right.
you know, and but I remember riding in the car with him, and everything was going to be a lesson,
Everything.
no matter what. No matter what.
I do that.
Um, so um, I think that when you have a parent who's obviously concerned about your well-being and pours into you, I mean, having children, quite frankly, is an investment. You know, you've created another life. You got to be responsible for how that individual turns out and the contributions that they make, not only, to the community, but the society as well.
Yes. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I was in a podcast yesterday. Big shout out to Black Box TV, and we were talking about parenting
Hmm.
yesterday.
Oh, wow.
It was interesting. One of the questions was what they asked, what is it about parenting that you feel that you didn't realize before you were a parent? And
Hmm.
one young lady says that everybody shouldn't be a parent.
That's true.
I was like, this is true. But we can laugh about that, but that's more or less because, you know, it is an investment, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to be willing to concentrate on that investment and cultivate it, sacrifice for it in
Mm-hmm.
order for it to grow. And it's not. And another young lady said, "Yeah, but there's no ROI on it either. It's just not much of a return." And she said it jokingly, but that's not the truth. The truth is the citizen that you create
Mm-hmm.
and who they're gonna be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I thank you for taking time out of your day, just kind of share a little bit.
I hope I assisted you as best I can. I gotta tell you, it's it's funny, and I get a little nervous. Normally I'm not lost for words at all, but when it comes to being a dad and being a parent, it's so special to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I get some accolades here and there, and people, oh, you're a good dad and all that. But like I said before, it's just I don't know. It's just God. It's hard to explain. It's just such an amazing thing, and it's something that uh, I just feel from God says, you know, your responsibility is to make sure that this little person,
Mm-hmm.
has the best chances and opportunities that you can give.
Yeah.
So I do what I do for the betterment of him. At least I think I do.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't beat yourself in the head all the time because there's like I said, you can always do more. Um, but I try to do my very best with what I have
Mm-hmm.
to take care of this little soul. Going back to my father again
Mm-hmm.
and my grandfather. I mean, my mom's father. I didn't get the opportunity to meet my dad's father, but it's interesting because as he talks about him now, some of the lessons that he taught my dad, I can see I actually, without ever meeting him, I
Mm-hmm.
still kind of, you know, shovel into my kid. Um, but my father would always say, "Man, because I was working a lot,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really get to do a lot with you, and I'm so proud of you as a dad because you do so much more with your son than I ever did with you." And that goes back to those lessons that you learn that from things that they maybe didn't do.
Right.
Um, so yeah, my father, because of what he did for a living, he didn't have a lot of time. There were holidays when he wasn't able to be there. I'm the son of a police officer. My
Mm-hmm.
father was CPD for 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and that took a lot of his time.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, my dad wasn't really a cop. He didn't, hang out with cops. There weren't cops always at the house in uniform. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to do that. He didn't want to be that. But he worked very hard. I was a latchkey kid,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so I found myself not alone a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but there were situations that my father, being a father, I had to really hold on to those lessons fast. Gun ownership,
Yeah.
okay, gun ownership, which is very important,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I grew up with guns in the home. My father really he taught me
Mm-hmm.
about guns. He and about gun safety.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like guns. I'm not into guns. I never have been. But as a little kid, so there wasn't in any tragic accidents. He sort of took away that curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of hiding it from me,
Mm-hmm.
he presented it to me, taught me about it, taught me and made me responsible at a very young age. And I lost friends because, at 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, you come home with your friends, everybody knows your father's a cop. Where's his gun? I want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And that type of peer pressure can get to you, and not necessarily in bad ways. Like, no, no, I want to show you, but you might want to be big and bad. Be like, oh, absolutely, here, let me show you, and I know how to use it, and I can do. Nah, because one thing I learned was like, it's not a toy, it's not a prop.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be like, no, why? There's nothing to see.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to see. That comes out if you plan on using it, and it's not going to be used. So I'm like, I just want to see it. And then, oh man, you being a punk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be that punk
Mm-hmm.
because disappointing my father to date was the most important thing to me. I did not want to do that at all, at all. Because his opinion mattered,
Mm-hmm.
and I notice now with my son, my opinion matters. So I've never been dismissive on anything that he has a question about, that he appreciates, that he has an opinion about, because I know how deep my opinion will affect him. Growing up as a young man, as a young black man. So my dad, he I follow that, so I do some of the same things that he did, but I also do the things that I'm like, man, it would have been nice for him to do this.
Yeah.
And so he, like I say, he tries, like, he regrets it. I'm like, man, don't worry about that, because now I know, okay, maybe if I do more of this, 'cause I wasn't a super athlete or anything. Like I said, I don't want my son necessarily. I'm not looking for him to be that, but I know there are a ton of lessons that he can learn from that.
Exactly.
And I get that from other people who are responsible, who I know have gotten to a certain place. And I'm like, yo, this will work. Yeah, I want this for my child.
Mm-hmm.
I want this for my child. All of us want more for our children than we ever could have had and or been. And
Exactly.
that's where I am.
Yeah, exactly. And again, taking those lessons that you've learned from your parents, but also kind of building upon those lessons
Mhm.
to do better.
Yeah.
I think it's the ultimate goal. Well, hats off to your dad. So let's shout out Mr. Roper.
Yeah.
But no, thank you. Again, I look and watch, and you were one person I definitely wanted to have a conversation with because, like I said, I um, admire from a distance with your parenting, and I just want you to be able to share a little bit
Thank
uh,
you so much.
with the listeners. So thank you. Let us know, when can we hear you? Because I know you.
Yes, yes, yes. I got a bunch going on. No, you can check out my podcast. I speak sometimes on fatherhood, but I really I'm on there playing music. It's at soundscapesradio.com.
Mhm.
My show is Craig Elliott Presents Soundscapes. I play Monday through Friday, from noon to about 3:30. It depends on when I wake up or what my time is like, but on average. But also you can listen to those shows if you follow that podcast on your own time as well. So I'm there. Obviously, COVID has slowed down my live stuff, so I haven't had the much opportunity to do that. But if you go on my podcast, I always announce my stuff and I place it. I'm at Instagram at Craig Elliott 13. That's two L's, two T's,
Mhm.
and my Facebook is open as well as, and so is my Twitter. So you know, come be a part of the Craig Elliott experience.
That's right.
You know,
I'm a fan.
thank
So,
you very much. I'm a fan of yours.
well, thank you. All right, my dear. Well,
And
thank you.
congratulations on your award as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I just actually got another notification, like
What'd you get now? What'd you get now?
the UIC Merit Award. So
What?
just opened up that email. So excited. Yeah, I'm trying to do a little something in the higher ed world. And
More than trying in higher ed. You
so
are doing.
thank you so very much. Well, um, I want to, hopefully, there'll be an opportunity for you to come back and join me.
Absolutely.
Yes, I would love to have you back. And for those of you who are listening and viewing, make sure you tell a friend, share the video with someone so that you can hear um, all of this great advice that Mr. Craig Elliott has blessed us with for today. And look forward to you guys tuning in next week. In the meantime, in between time, remember to continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle at Light It Up Podcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.